So tonight we have Tom Heywood judging. So when a special thanks for Tom. Short notice change of plans where we had Joseph Roybal was scheduled to judge tonight, and he got called out on a last minute substitution trip for a travel workshop or a photo workshop that he had to host. So unfortunately he was unable to, he had to travel today, but we're really happy that Tom, got a hold of Tom and it worked for him, and pleased to have you here, Tom. So thanks for helping us out on short notice. So, give a little background on Tom. So Tom is, as a member of the high school yearbook staff, as a staff photographer, and Tom began his journey in photographic arts. With a strong foundation in film processing, he continued his interest as digital photography evolved. Tom became an educator, and his photography took a back seat for a while. In 2013, Tom reignited his passion for photography and totally immersed himself in the study of photography. He studied formally at the Denver School of Photography and began taking classes wherever he could and studied with some of the premier photographers in Colorado. In addition to his studies, he's become very involved in the photographic community in Colorado. He's judged and critiqued several times for various photography clubs in Colorado, and he currently sits on the board of the Alpine Photography Club in Montrose, Colorado. His accomplishments include receiving local and regional awards. He's been invited to exhibit in several juried state and national fine art photography shows, and his awards include the 2014 Denver Photographic Society Digital Color Photographer of the Year and Digital Creative Photographer of the Year, 2015 PSA Photojournalism Photo of the Year, and 2016 Lone Tree Eye of the Camera Show People's Choice Award. Tom was selected to jury and judge the 2018 Visions of Light Fine Art Photography Show and the 2019 Gateway Art Show. He received the Best Photography Award at the New Mexico Art and Crafts Fair. In his retirement as an educator, Tom has reignited his passion for photography and is focused on marketing his art. For the past several years, Tom has been a very active artist, selling his photographic arts and art fairs, not only in Colorado, but in the surrounding states. He established himself in the art fair community and is regularly juried into most of the coveted art fairs in the region. He currently shows and sells his art at fine art fairs around the region. So thanks, Tom. Any other words you'd like to add?
No, if anybody has a question. I don't do workshops currently. People have asked, and I just have been so focused on the business, and it gets pretty crazy. So maybe I think at some point in time I'll do workshops, but right now it's just about getting photos and selling them.
Okay. Well, good. Well, thanks. We'll get going here in a second. We do have a guest, Vincent Kelsey. So welcome, Vincent. Not to put you on the spot, but we're going to just ask you, how you found our club, and just give us a little bit of background on what kind of photography you like to do, and what you're looking to get out of your attendance here at the meeting.
Hi, I'm Vincent. I don't remember. I think one of my mom's friends recommended this club, so I was like, all right, cool. I'll join. And I have a wide range of photography I like. I could do people, motion, but primarily I really like adventure photography right now, just taking pictures outdoors. And yeah.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks. We have, in the club, we have two meetings a month. One is a competition night, which is tonight, and then the first Wednesday of the month. I got that right? When we have the programs meeting. So then we
Second Wednesday.
Second Wednesday. Okay, thank you. Second Wednesday of the month, we have a programs meeting where we'll have someone present on some topic, and so two different styles of meetings. So welcome you to check that out too. All right. Well, thanks for joining, Vincent. So without any further ado, Bob, are you ready to go? And if we could ask people to mute if you're not talking. We'll do the usual. We're going through the images and it's a random order. I'll announce the title. Tom will say some words about it, critique, suggest things that could be improved, or, elements at work, that sort of thing, give some feedback. After we've gotten a handful of 5 to 7 scores of 9s and 10s, we'll take a pause and give the photographer a chance to say a few words about their image. So those that score a 9 or a 10.
One question, what's the range, the score range?
Generally from 7 to 10.
Okay.
Yeah. So 10 is something where everything works. Great impact. 9 is maybe one or two things that keeps it from being a 10. Some specific things that you can say this. 7 is usually something that's got some pretty fundamental technical or compositional flaws, that kind of thing. Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks. Okay, palm trees in a row.
Okay. One thing I noticed about this photo is that the ground, the foreground, could be a little darker. Possibly, looks like the sun's pretty high in the sky. It's probably a pretty bright day. And I think in general, the image is a little two-dimensional to me. And the subject I think it has an average amount of impact. I think it's an interesting scene, but I wouldn't say it's real dynamic. It looks very well photographed. Maybe the green color could be popped just a teeny bit, maybe, I don't know. But I think I would give this an 8.
Fuzzy leaves.
Fuzzy leaves. So I'm wondering if there isn't some more detail in this image. I know the title kind of tells me that they want it to be fuzzy. I don't know if they want it to be soft, but I'm thinking there should be little detail in the leaves, maybe. I noticed that in the center leaf, there's where the stem comes up. That probably should be in focus, I'm guessing, unless they defocus the whole image intentionally. So I'm saying it's probably soft. I do like the tonality. It's got all the range of blacks and grays and whites, and the pattern is interesting. I think I would give this an 8 also.
Downtown Phoenix abstract.
Yes. This is one thing that I don't know, that kind of drives me a little nuts is, and I've seen a few photos in this group that the image isn't lined up properly. When you have all these straight lines in the image with the buildings, and then you can clearly see, like on the left side of the image, that the image, either the lens wasn't corrected in the software to change the distortion that lenses create, especially wide angle lenses. And often an image like this can be easily fixed in Photoshop with a warp or distortion tool. And I think it would make a difference. I go up to that little area up there, that little gray area up and to the left, and my head just keeps tilting right to straighten it out a little. But I think that in general, that would be the issue for me in this image. I think that there's a couple photos inside of this photo as well. And especially up on the left, there's a reflection of some type inside of that those windows that I thought was very interesting. And I'd be curious to see how that could be worked into a little more micro scene. But I like all the color. I like the color range is all pretty similar. And I like a little bit of that blue sky up there. I just would like that building to be straightened a little bit. And maybe it's just a personal thing for me, but I think when you have straight lines, you have to be really careful. I think I would give this, can I give it an 8.5? I'll give it a 9.
Bubbles everywhere.
Oh, yes. You know, there's a lot of patterns in this image, and I'm wondering if it's too busy and there are too many patterns. My eye doesn't know what to look at, the big circles or the bubbles. And when I look at this, I can see, like, in that purple, for example, in that purple circle in the bottom, if that was just itself, the image, and the bubbles inside of it, my eye has an easier, it's easier for me to focus on some of the patterns. I think the psychology of how we see things really plays in when we have photos that are busy like this, and my eye is trying to figure out, what am I supposed to look at, the big circles or the bubbles? I think it's a very interesting idea, and I'm curious how it was photographed without using the composition. I'm sure there's some kind of suspension liquid or something at play here, but I like the idea. I would like to see one whole background of the purple with the bubbles or something like that. But I'm going to give this an 8.
Red, white, and blue.
Okay, so you know what I'm going to say. Again, the lines, if you have lines in the building here, you know, it's got to kind of line up a little bit better. It's just a little off. I like the patterns though. I like all the blue and white patterns, and I'm wondering how that red thing in there doesn't just distract a little bit from the composition. And perhaps I would have cropped or content aware that thing out of there. I think the image cropped above the red column it would be pretty strong on its own. I think, yeah, it is an interesting pattern, and the color combinations are very solid. I would say I would give this an 8.
These electric bikes all look alike.
I like how this was photographed. I like that the photographer got down and got this perspective of these wheels going large to small, and you can see how they gradually move out of the image, and they're just so perfectly lined up. And in this case, it was all about perspective of the photographer and where they set up. And bikes aren't necessarily the most interesting subject, but I think this is a very interesting photograph. I think it was well photographed. I like all the blacks and the whites and the grays, the midtones, the full tonal range on a black and white photo. I would give this my first 10.
St. Mark's Square, Venice, Italy.
Well, this is a really good subject for patterns. I think something about that white sky up in the right corner is so distracting to me. My eye goes right up there, and I'm just wondering if there wasn't a better, I don't know what kind of access the person had for this photo, but I wonder if there wasn't a better viewpoint or angle on this subject. Those columns going down the row, if like that wheel went bigger to smaller, if somebody could get those columns sort of in a similar kind of a perspective, I think that could have been very dynamic. And there's also so many different little patterns in here. Even the way the water has stained, that in itself is a pattern. I think there's a lot of photos inside of this photo, but I think it's something about it is very choppy, and the angle, it just seems like it leads the wrong way. I would give this a 7.
Spider-Man's Vantage.
Yeah, this is a really interesting photo. And of course, I like to spend a lot of time to figure out how they photographed it, and I can't even come up close, but or what this is. And that's good. I spent a lot of time looking at it when I first saw it, and of course, probably everybody knows I've had the chance to look at some of these, but I love the color combinations and the contrast and the hues. I like the contrast in the straight lines and the fluid, soft, kind of like furry lines. I guess that's how I could describe it. They make a very good combination. It's a photo that is interesting enough for me to look at it for a while and kind of just look at all the little different areas and patterns. But yet it's not really, there's nothing in here that distracts me, and I can see this really big on a wall somewhere. You know, on like a red or green wall or something where the color would be really good, but or a gray wall, I don't know. It's just very interesting. The shades are a pattern itself. I would give this a 10 also. Well done.
In the church.
Well, I think this is more of a church photo than a pattern photo. There's definitely patterns inside of this church, but I'm not sure which patterns I'm supposed to be looking at. Is the patterns the pews, or is it the floor? Or is it the lights? I mean, there's a lot of patterns. So I think the photographer really needs to focus on a pattern in here and make it more distinct, make it more of the subject. There's a lot to work with in here. I just think it's hard for me to identify. I think maybe the pews must be the pattern. I'm not positive, but it's just more of a scene photo as far as I'm concerned. Well photographed though, and I would say I would give this a 7.
Checkered.
You know, this is a good color combination with the blacks and the yellows and the whites. It looks a little soft to me, and I think the angle is a little awkward. I don't know, I'm trying to adjust a little bit. And again, you know, when we take these photos, we don't have, sometimes we can't really, you know, fly up 20 feet and get a good angle, but I'm wondering if there wasn't a different angle. It's hard for me to say, but even if I look back, it looks, I don't know, it looks askew, too much askew to me. I would give this an 8.
Paradigm.
Yes. Now it's a very interesting photo. I know this place very well. I just really noticed you know, our eyes always seem to go to the light and the dark, and the bottom left, the bottom right is a very light area, and the color blue there just really comes out. I can see the contrast against those yellows and browns. And it has so many different directions that these stones are placed, that there's just a lot of interest, a lot to look at in this. And but it doesn't really give me that feeling of being too busy. And I just also like the shadowing in here. I'm not sure if it was brushed in, you know, or if it was just a natural shadow. I'm trying to remember what's there. It could have been some tree shadows, but I really like this photo. It's a very interesting photo. It's one that really keeps my interest for a while. They did a good job of highlighting the blues up there in the top, just to kind of tie it together. Very well done. I'd give this a 10.
Radial symmetry.
Yes, indeed. Someone once told me when I first began that you don't need to tell people what it is in the title. The photographers should know what it is by looking at it. I don't know that that distracts from the image at all, but I would consider a different title. It's clearly radial symmetry, and the contrast in here is spectacular in my eyes. With the blacks and the whites and the different levels of soft plant and straight lines and dots. It's got a lot of different patterns, but they all work well together. They don't conflict with each other. And as a black and white photo, again, it has a wide range of hue from dark blacks all the way to whites, which in my mind makes a very good black and white photo. It is extremely sharp in the way I see it. And that's very technically well photographed. I would give this a 10. Well done.
Flourishing in the forest.
Wow, very mystical, magical kind of an image. I'm waiting for a little gnome or an elf to pop out here somewhere. And I love the color contrast with the oranges and the green. Those are very complementary on the color wheel, and they work very well here. The patterns, the natural patterns of nature are well identified here. It looks pretty well in focus, and I don't really see any issues. My eye goes right where it needs to go on this photo. There's nothing distracting me. I would give this a 9.
I think we'll stop after the next photo and review, go back and review the 9s and 10s. Okay, so one more. Rust wall.
Yes, I like the rust wall. I'm glad there's some shadows in here in contrast of the straight lines. I'm not sure that the subject is that dynamic and interesting. I think that as a pattern photo, it's very well photographed. I would give it an 8.
Okay. All right, well, let's review the 9s and 10s if we can, Bob. This is Downtown Phoenix Abstract. That's Dan Greenberg.
No, this is I do agree. Actually, now I'm looking at it that I should straighten the lines up better on it. But I liked all the different kinds of reflections and patterns, and that's what brought me to take the picture in the first place. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. And this is These Electric Bikes All Look Alike, Joe Weber. Is Joe here? Is he on? Okay, let's not be. Let's move on. Spider-Man's Vantage, Sean Slade.
Hey, Tom, thanks for the comments on this. I'm glad you found it intriguing. This is actually, as you're walking on the sidewalk by the Puget Sound in Seattle, there's a section that these glass blocks are in the sidewalk. And so I just snapped this with my iPhone, kind of standing at one end and pointing it away from me. And then I purposely did an oil paint effect to smooth out the gray, the concrete. I just wanted to add a different texture to that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
This Paradigm by Victoria Ashby.
Yes, Tom, you said you recognize this, so it's at the Denver Botanical Gardens.
Of course.
And I just really love the patterns in the rocks. As far as the shadows, there were some tree shadows. This photo was actually lighter. And I played around with the color to bring out the blues and the
very good idea.
Shadows. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Radial symmetry, it's Oz Feniger.
Yeah, I took this up on Georgia Pass, and the dandelion had seeds all the way around, and I plucked some of them away to expose the center and converted it to black and white and got the background to go dark. I was thinking of a title, but I didn't want to call it dandelion. So I called it radial symmetry, but I
Yeah.
don't know what else to call it.
Yeah.
So it was a macro lens and stopped down quite a bit. I think it was a 105 macro. Anyway.
Yeah, I like how,
Go
I
ahead.
like how you exposed the seed in the middle. I've seen so many of these that are just the actual white stems that come out. That really made a difference.
So you're saying that some people make it too white in the middle?
Well, all I've seen is just the dandelion. I mean, just the puff around it. I haven't really seen them as exposed in the middle.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I had a good time taking pictures, and this was the best one. So thank you.
Thanks, Raj. Ron Charler, flourishing in the forest. Flourishing
Yes.
in the forest.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, this was taken up in Olympic National Park. It was just a log that had fallen with all this growth on it, and there are just numerous, countless mushrooms on there. So it was a little bit of a challenge trying to find a composition, but I added a little bit of warm light from a loom cube to kind of get into the shadows a little bit, so that enhanced the yellow coloring of it a little bit.
Thanks, Ron. Convergence.
Yes, I really like this one. It has such a calming effect, and it just doesn't. Some photos are so busy and they're almost give you this kind of craziness feeling, and this one is just very calming. The way the lines move through this, and of course the dark is kind of where I kind of go first, and I move to the lights. And it just moves so naturally in the image, these lines do. And then there's a pattern inside of the pattern. You have all those striations on top of those walls or whatever they are. But it's very interesting, and I love the way the gradation of the light and some of the hue, just very well done. Very artistic. I would give it a 10.
Underwater repetition.
Yeah, well, I like of course, the green and the reds again are very good color complementaries, and it's interesting. It's not one that I think I would look at for a long time. It's very beautiful, but it's not one that I would necessarily keep my attention for a long time, because what I see in one part is what I'm going to see the rest of the photo, and so I think I would say it looks well photographed too. I would say it would be an 8.
Wrought iron maze.
I kind of had some fun with this one. I love this photo. I'm trying to figure out, it's obviously some kind of a bridge, but I'm trying to figure out the structure of it, and I think I'm just going to drive myself nuts trying to figure it out. But I actually took this one into Photoshop and rotated it so it went vertical, and it was kind of interesting, and I think I liked it better that way. But something about it coming from the right and going to the left, I don't know, but it's wow, it's got so much to it. Again, it's something that really can keep you busy and keep a person looking for a while. Very well photographed. I mean, it looks like there's a pretty good depth of field in here, and it's all in focus. And the shading and the color is good. Even though I like it better the other way, I think I'm still going to give it a 10.
The circus.
Yeah, this one was interesting too to me. Very interesting composition with all these lines going in all these directions, and then have all the straight lines, and then to have a circular line with some circular objects in there to break it up was very good. The only thing that I would suggest is there's one ball kind of in the middle that is not like the rest of the balls. I think those must be rides or something, but it just sort of stops the flow, that curve. And I would have just cloned one of the other balls onto there. That would have been my suggestion, because my eye goes there. It wants to figure out why isn't that one like the other ones. It's, again, that psychology of our brain. Maybe that's the intention, but it takes me away from looking at the photo and enjoying the flow of the photo. Without that, I think it would be a 9. I think if it was similar, I think I would have given it a 10.
Mind the gap.
The gap, yes, the gap. Is the gap a positive thing or a negative thing? Of course, that's where my eye goes. Goes right to that black spot. It either goes to the light area of a photo or the dark area, and that's where it's going. Yeah, I like the colors and I like the pattern. I'm not sure if the gap doesn't break it up too much. I don't know. It just becomes the gap. It's all about the gap. That's why it's called the gap. I'm going to give it a 9. I love the color and the patterns. I'm not sure if I like the gap. Wow.
Kaleidoscope of petals.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out what plant this is, and my only guess was a peony. But with all the different things, I'll be curious to find out what it is. But I love this. I love this photo. I love black and whites, and this one is very well photographed. A little. There's not a whole lot of midtones in here, but I don't think that it matters in this photo. There's an awful lot of darks and brights. That contrast is what makes this photo. And I like that there's a vignette around it, which kind of brings you to the center. I thought if I stand back and look at it, I like it even a little better. It's one that I think would be really nice, big on a big wall. I'm going to give that a 10. Well done.
Shadows at UVA.
This is one that I really like. Sometimes I mentioned that there can be too many patterns, and they can be conflicting, and they can cause conflict in your brain. But this one, all of those lines and all those patterns kind of go to the same place in the bottom left of the photo. It makes it very comfortable, and they're very different patterns. There's some very curved line in here, and there's some very straight lines, but they all kind of work complementary. I really think that's very remarkable. I like the shadows and the columns. Just an excellent composition. I would give that a 10 plus.
Triangles.
Oh, okay. This is one that kind of makes my brain work hard. The rock, the pebble in here is pretty overblown, pretty bright in itself, technically. That's where my brain goes. I want to look at the bright spot. And I really think the photo is in the lines. If the exposure could be brought down in that, and so that it is just not as significant, I think it would be a whole different photo. I'm very curious to what the lines are. Again, I'm trying to figure out what they are, which is good, because it's keeping me interested. But I think those pebbles just kind of are a distraction, and I'm going to give it an 8.
And we'll stop after the next one and review the 9s and 10s. Okay. So one more. Soft serve fell to the ground.
Oh, I really like this one. Again, another great black and white. You can just kind of feel the snow. you can tell it's fluffy snow, or at least it looks that way. I can almost imagine myself walking in the snow and it's just kind of blowing all over the place. And the lines and the pattern around the tree, just a very good capture. And the lighting is good. I think the snow can be tricky, and it looks like either a vignette or some kind of light was used to just get this inside of the center of the photo. This one does have some detail in the trunk. It's dark and you can't see it, but I did look at it close. But it's generally just a soft photo. This is about soft pattern, and I really like it. I'll give this one a 10. Hope I'm not giving too many 10s, but there's a lot of great photos here.
Yeah, you're gonna have a revolt here. Yeah. So this is Convergence. And this is David Besson.
Yeah, thanks, Tom, for your comments. This was kind of odd because this is actually the window shade in our bedroom.
Oh, wow.
Last summer, I was just sitting in the bed reading a book, and the sun was going down, and it was almost the solstice, so the light came in, and it just caught my eye. I ran and grabbed my camera and wide angle lens, and voila! So it's just a window shade.
Ooh, cool.
Very cool. Wrought Iron Maze is Brian Donovan.
Hey, Tom. Sorry I drove you crazy on this. This is actually one of the legs of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
I rotated it 90 degrees.
Okay, you changed it.
And I really like the panoramic format,
Okay.
and the rotating 90 degrees. My eye was led, from the left to the right.
Uh-huh.
So that's why I did it that way.
Ah, okay. It's good either way.
The Circus, this is Dominic Aducci.
Hey, Tom, thank you for the comments. This is the high roller in Vegas, so kind of a lot of lines from the zip lines that go by it as well. So kind of found an angle that worked, but I see what you mean with the off-color one, so that's something to keep in mind. But thank you.
Mhm.
Mind the Gap, and this one's mine. So this is just a picture of a box of staples for my staple gun.
Oh,
And then I actually made the gap because I thought, well, it's kind of boring, just lines of staples. So I just
yeah.
put the gap in there, and then just cranked up the blue a little bit in Lightroom. But yeah, that's about all I did with it. So thanks for the comments.
Sure. It's just me, probably, Clint. It's just me.
Yeah. And then Kaleidoscope of Petals. This is Susan Hefke.
Yes, this was taken at the Denver Botanic Gardens, and it was just a potted succulent plant that I took from the top looking down.
Mm-hmm.
And I sure appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
The Shadows at UVA. This is Gwen Patton.
Yeah, this was taken in Charlottesville, Virginia, under the UVA Stadium. When I belonged to the Charlottesville Camera Club, in Charlottesville, we had an assignment to photograph something at UVA for the Camera Club. So that is what I got. Had great fun under the stadium. And thank you for your comments, Tom.
And then Soft Serve Fell to the Ground. That's Terry Hanford.
Was taken at night, and actually it was snowing at the time, so it really did feel like the sky was falling. I actually softened the picture. I tried sharpening it because your natural thing is, people are wanting to see it sharp, but I just thought it looked so much better soft. And so it worked. I had an 85 millimeter lens, and I couldn't get the right angle with it, so I actually took two pictures and stitched them together to get this, and it worked pretty well. Thank you for your comments.
Thanks, Terry. There we go. Rooftop, Las Terrazas, Cuba.
Well, if if you want to define pattern, this is just an excellent example of a pattern. It's just such a magnificent pattern with so much depth, and I love the different shades of these colors, and it's just a simple pattern, and it doesn't need anything else. I think, again, this would be beautiful on somebody's wall with the right color combination. I would give this a 9.
Patterns in corn.
That's interesting photo for sure. And when I saw it, I kind of like, wow, this is very cool. I really like the choice of the orientation here with the triangle going out. I think that is very well done. And I don't know how you pick those clouds, but they look really good too. They work well. The only thing that I noticed on the main front corn off to the left, you can see in the background, one of the little corns off to the side on the boundary. It's sort of a boundary thing. And it kind of, when I'm looking at the corn, I kind of wonder, man, what's that on there? And it's just a little distracting to me, but nothing major. I noticed there's a little bit of that going on off to the sides too on some of those other corns, but maybe that could have got blocked out or content awared out. I don't know, but I think it's a good photo. I'll give it a 9.
Huge mind gear, Leeds, South Dakota.
Well, there's definitely some patterns in here for sure. I'm wondering if a different perspective. I'm almost sure the photographer moved around the whole bunch and looked at different angles, and I don't know if there wasn't a different angle. I think the straight on angle doesn't do it justice. There's something missing here. I just think, and a little less sky on the left side. I think the sky on the right is okay. I don't know. I think if you got down really low and looked up, I just think that perspective is off just a bit on this one. I'll give this one an 8.
Macro of a piece of twine.
Yeah, that's a pretty interesting pattern. Again, like the shingles, this is just all about a pattern. It's interesting, a very good black and white photo, good range in the darks and the midtones and the whites. It's one that would be very attractive on a wall. I'm not sure how dynamic it is. I would give it an 8.
Patterns of rust and old paint.
This one is really interesting. I really I love the color contrast in the blues and the yellows. And man, I would like to play with this one a little bit and flip it and crop it a little and see if a little less on the sides. I don't know if it makes any difference, if it would look different as a panorama. I think that middle strip wants to be a panorama somehow, maybe cropped in a little bit from the bottom and the top. But I don't know that it makes that much difference. It would be interesting to see that. But I think it's a beautiful, beautiful color, and it seems to be very well photographed. I will give this one a 10.
Majestic columns.
Aha. I bet you're going to guess what I'm going to say. The columns should be straightened out a little bit more. I think maybe even just a lens correction, in the Lightroom tools might help quite a bit. But I think you could distort or warp this a little bit, and you could straighten those out, and I think it'd be a lot different photo. And I would almost even consider those trees on the left, maybe content of wearing those trees out. I don't think they help the photo at all. But I'm very interested in the subject. I think it's an amazing subject, and I'm curious to what the heck it is, you know, but I'm gonna give this an 8.
Illusion.
Well, very interesting patterns here. And my first comment, I think, is that it's a little blown out. I think the exposure needs to be brought down just a little bit. And again, you know, that grout line on the right is kind of telling me that it's just off a bit, and it's, you know, my mind is trying to make it straight. And the shadows, I love the shadows, and I wish there was a little more shadow. I was wondering if maybe off to the side, a little more perspective. I think that would make it a very dynamic photo, or come back at a different time when the sun is at a different location. But I do like the pattern. I like the pattern. But because I think it's a little blown out and the line is off, I think I'm gonna have to give it an 8.
Anchorage high rise.
This is almost 2 photos to me, and again, my eyes, like I'm look at one side, then I look at the other side. This is I think an example of when the patterns aren't complementary to each other. I might have focused on one or the other, or it just seems like 2 photos to me. But I think it has potential. It's an interesting subject. I'm going to give it an 8.
Amour.
Here's that circular pattern again, but I think in the dandelion picture, I saw the whole circle. And I really want to see, my eyes are like, what's there? I want to see this whole circle. You know, I want to, my eyes want to put it together. My brain wants to put it together, wants to see the whole circle. I think it's a great pattern, and I think it has a lot of potential. I'm not sure if it's not a little bit soft, but it's hard for me to tell. I'm going to give it an 8.
Passing through.
I really had to think about the definition of pattern on this one. When I think of a pattern, I think of objects of similar shape, and the rocks don't have similar shape to me. Yeah, they're in a pattern. So I'm thinking it's a little weak on the subject, but could just be me. I could be misinterpreting the subject.
Could I interrupt
Yeah,
for a
it's-
second?
Yeah.
We allow, if you think it doesn't fit the subject, you can DQ it.
Well, I think there's some pattern to it. I just think it's weak.
Or repetition, yeah.
Yeah, there's not a repetition of the same shape. I mean, rocks have a pattern, but it's very, I don't know. I would not disqualify it. I would just give it a 7. But it's close. I would say it's close.
Okay. Tropical pattern.
Yes. I would like to see this one printed. This one is really interesting. The more I looked at, the more I liked it. And I kept thinking maybe it's a little bright. The background's a little bright, but I don't think so. The more I look at it, the more I like it just the way it is. And it seems a little soft to me, but I think it's good. I think it's good that way. I mean, I think it's just about the patterns of these leaves. It's not about technicality of the photo or anything. And with that white background, it just they really stand out. Or it's not really white, it's light gray. But with that light gray background, it really stands out. And again, the more I sit back, the more I like it. I'm going to give this a 10.
Passageway.
Again, my brain wants to see what's at the bottom of this image. I know there's a great pattern in the ceiling here, but I think we're missing part of the photo. I'd really like to see the pattern go all the way down and the columns a part of it. I think we're missing part of the photo. I think that the columns or the circular tops are very very well photographed. I like the hues and the shading. I just want to see more of the columns. I'm going to give it an 8.
Shopping carts.
This was an interesting one. This was challenging for me. I didn't know what to do with this one. I'm wondering if the pattern here, like I mentioned, the perspective, if the photographer could get down a little bit lower and move across the Carrefour market bars that go all the way across, I think that's the strongest pattern in here. The subject is just not interesting. I don't know. I would just wanted to see more of the pattern in those bars across the whole. I want to see how many. I want to see how many baskets there are. So I don't know. I'll give this one an 8.
Something for everyone.
Well, I can sell this photo in Montrose. There's a lot of cowboys here. I like this photo. And see, this one is a pattern of just boots. It's not a pattern of the same kind of boots. So I thought about it for a while and I go, well, maybe it's not, but it is a pattern. It's a pattern of just boots in a row. They don't have to be the same boot. So so I got it, on this one, and yeah, I like it. I like the colors. I like the colors and the different patterns on the boots, and I think it's a great perspective. And the first boot is in great detail, and of course there's bokeh. It goes off into the mist where it's not as detailed. Yeah, that one is a hanger for sure. That's a 10.
Grain towers.
All right, in my mind, here's an example of how the patterns conflict a little bit. And I'm trying to figure out, which patterns to look. I think the predominant patterns are the ones at the bottom, but the ones on the top, on the siding of the building, are part of the image. So I think more focus on just the bottom ones and crop out some of the top might have been a little, I don't know, stronger. I don't know, but there's some great pattern in here. Or maybe cropping out the sky and a little less of the building on the top. And I think that it's a whole different image, even cropping out all the way down to the bottom of the blue. And I think it's a different image. I don't know that the sky is necessary. It sort of takes me out of the photo. I just go right out. I'm going to give it an 8.
Alignment of the stars.
Yeah, there's a great pattern here. I'm kind of feeling this as not really a classic black and white, but it's I'm trying to think of the word. My brain, it's just not thinking right now, but it's
I'm gonna go with sepia for.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was thinking. Sepia. Yes, it is clearly a sepia tone. So I'm not gonna critique it because it doesn't have a range of hues. It's not supposed to. Really interesting pattern. I wonder if it would look different, a little more pattern, more of a different angle. across the photo more. I don't know. Something again about the angle of this one just kind of throws me off a little bit. Either all straight up and down or a little more angle. But I like the patterns of the spines. I'm going to give it a 8.
Moon landing.
Wow, this one really gets my attention. This one, I love this one. Probably my favorite of all of them. I love the gradation in the water based on the waves and the density of the water, and and of course the light creates that gradation. And it's a long enough exposure that the water is all soft, and that's why the moon is not really in focus, because the moon is moving in this exposure. So normally I would critique the moon and say it's not sharp, but it shouldn't be sharp in this photo. I would think it would be a composition if it was. Just so simple. It's just so simple, and I love the pattern of the lights, and and how there's the reflection of the lights on the water. And as a black and white photo, it's got complete range throughout the hues. It is my favorite, I think, of the whole group, and I would certainly rate it a 10. I would certainly hang it on my wall.
Wine in the making.
Yeah, I love this too. As a landscape photographer, of course, I like this one. Great capture, just a good capture. Great composition. The lines are just moving fluidly, and they kind of move off into the sky, and then the clouds sort of pick it up, and the clouds sort of have a fluid motion in them as well. It just sort of, I think if the clouds are all puffy cumulus clouds, they wouldn't work very well. So Mother Nature really helped out on this one. I'm going to give this one a 10.
License to drive.
What a pattern. This is certainly a pattern. And again, I'm going to mention the lines are off a bit. I'm not sure if that's the way they were on the wall. Sometimes that's been the case. I've critiqued photos, and the person says, well, that's the way they were on the wall, and I get that, So it's just something I want to straighten them out. I don't know. Could just be my brain, but that's what it's thinking. I think I really don't know how dynamic it is to me, but I think to certain individuals, this would be a very dynamic photo. I'm not sure that the subject is that interesting to me, but the pattern is fantastic. So I'm going to give it a 9.
Green Bentley in the snow.
This is great contrast. This is one of those where I want you to get down on your hands and knees and get in the snow and get off to the end and get a different angle. I think it's a little just two-dimensional right now, the way it is. You kind of got a start of a little bit of a gradation of from large to small, but I think it could have gone a little farther, and it would have been a stronger photo. Interesting subject. This one could have been really fun to play with. I would have got out a couple different lenses and played with it. Maybe you did. I want to hear. I'll give this one an 8.
And Mission Arches.
Mission Arches. This is another one that I actually put into Photoshop and played with because I wanted to crop it and see how it looked. And the reason I feel that way is both on the bottom, those cobbles, the red cobbles are just such a contrast from the color tones of the grays in these rocks that it's kind of a little bit of a distraction. And then the sky at the top, I think I cropped out just to where the sky was cropped out and where the red cobbles were out. And I thought it was a lot stronger photo. Where the subject is really those grays and the dynamic, those arches, and I'm not looking up and down. I'm not looking at the sky or the cobbles. I'm just looking at the center of the photo. And that flower is just really a great centerpiece. What a nice subject. I am going to give it a 9.
And that is everyone. If we could go back and review the last batch of 9s and 10s here. This is a rooftop lust. Terraces, Todd Lytle.
Thanks, Tom, especially on such short notice. I think you're giving good feedback as well, and that's most helpful for all of us. This was I guess they're pottery fired roof tiles over a little restaurant between Havana, Cuba and Vinales, Cuba. Dan and I went to Cuba in 2018 and we had a driver. And so we stopped in some mountain towns and other interesting places on our drive from Havana. And so this was just a rooftop.
Thanks, Todd. And Pattern and Corn, Bill Rothenmeier.
Yes, this is in Dublin, Ohio.
Yeah. I did a project years ago, just like a half mile from here. Saw this all the time, so I knew exactly what it was, and it came up. Curious sculpture. Patterns of Rust and Old Paint, Dan Greenberg.
Yeah, those of you who know me know that I photograph a lot of cars, old cars, junk cars, new cars, as well as everything else that's old and rusty, and trains and boats and things like that. This is a kind of an abstract off the side of an old rusting train in Steamtown National Historic Site in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And basically all I did to it is I tried cropping it a whole bunch of different ways too, and this was the way that I seemed to like the best. And basically all I really did to this is increase the contrast and the saturation on it. So.
Did you try flipping it so it was the other way?
Yeah, I did. And like I said, it's like one of those kind of things. I kind of liked it all the ways I did it.
Sure.
And so then
yeah.
So I just chose one because I wanted one. You know, this wasn't shot square. It was shot as a 35 millimeter format, kind of thing, and it was taller than that. So I left it this way because that way it represented the actual train, and that's how it was on the actual train.
Okay.
So, but thank you very much for your feedback.
Nice.
All right, thanks, Dan. This is Tropical Pattern. This is Dave Hull.
Thank you very much for your comments. These are actually tree ferns. We were in the tropics and kind of walked through this area several times, and I was always enamored with the way that these looked. And one morning it was better than the others, so I took a photograph and two. That's it. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Dave. Something for everyone. It's Ron Schaller.
Yes, thanks, Tom. This was taken at a boot and leather shop in Raton, New Mexico. It was a family-owned business in the family for several generations, and the owners were just very nice about letting me wander around and shoot, and they had such a great selection of cowboy boots, and this is the perspective that I chose for this photo. Thank you.
The moon landing. This is Brian Donovan.
Yeah, this is a pier out near Santa Barbara, California. And I shot it early one morning when the moon was setting. I converted it to black and white in silver effects, and glad you liked it.
Would you tell me what the exposure was on it?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know offhand.
You probably won't see it on the JPEG, but that's all right. Just curious. Well done.
Okay, thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
The Wine in the Making. This is Gwen Patton.
Yeah, this was taken at a winery near San Luis Obispo, California. And this was just not that far away from the building where we were doing wine tasting. So I just am always looking for patterns in fields, wherever.
Nice. Thanks. License to drive, Sally Green. Sally on. She did have a comment here. It's just in Crested Butte. I noticed this building with a wall of license plates in someone's house. That's, so we know about that. And then this is Mission Arches by Bill Rothenmeier.
Yes, this is in San Antonio, one of the missions that are a national monument. I really appreciate your comments. I think that's an insight I didn't think of, is doing the cropping. I agree with that, but that could make this a lot better picture. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's everyone. We do have, you see, is Theo still on?
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, Theo.
Hello.
See, you're a guest visiting, and just interested in how you found our club, and what kind of photography you like to do.
Yeah, I was looking online for different photography clubs in Denver. Just moved here 3 weeks ago, so was looking for stuff in the area. Found you on Google. I think maybe some blog post that had mentioned you as a good site to check out. In terms of types of photography, I got into it over the pandemic and ended up taking 26,000 photos in 2019, just learning everything about all of the different aspects of it. So I don't really have a focus. I haven't shot many people, but landscape, macro, wildlife, architecture, pretty much anything. So.
Good. Thanks for joining us. We have 2 meetings a month, and so this, of course, is our competition meeting, and then the second Wednesday of each month we have a program meeting where we have a guest to present some program, some subject or topic. So if you're interested in coming back and checking those out, we'd love to have you come back.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's everything for tonight. Any final comments or?
Yeah, Cliff, I got a quick comment.
Yeah.
The famous license plate house in Crested Butte, you can rent that as well. So if you're in downtown Crested Butte and you want to rent that house, the whole thing is covered in license plates. It's on VRBO, by the way.
Good to know. All right. Okay. Anything else, anyone?
Well, thanks for sharing all your work, everybody. It was fantastic. I loved it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, yeah, thanks again, Tom.
Sure.
Really appreciate the specific comments and that, I think it's really a great learning kind of commentary. So yeah, we really appreciate the time you took looking at the images ahead of time, and then tonight again too. So thanks.
I signed in late. Did we talk about the meeting at the 30th, on the 30th before I came in a few minutes late?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, thank you.
So it'll be Lone Tree. It'll be meeting in person at Lone Tree this time for the mentoring. So, all right. Well, good. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Bob, for doing the presenting, and Tom again, and we'll talk to y'all in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a good evening.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate your comments.